Morning, Ryan. How you doing today?
Good, good.
Glad we could get back together, talk more commercial real estate. Today, we have selected the topic of tech-driven due diligence. And obviously, in the commercial real estate realm, years gone by, you could get by without technology. You could just do everything old school, smile and dial, get some deals done, and just rely on your knowledge of the market, and that was it.
That's still being done.
It's
Still the
could be done a little here and there, but
Yep.
increasingly in our industry, as other industries, technology has been more and more of a focus, more and more important. Having access to good data and how you use it, how you implement it is critical. And in commercial real estate, that is really no exception. And so the traditional brokerage model versus where we are today, it's just vastly changed. So we wanted to go through a few different ways that here at Oxford, we are driving that technology forward. We're using that as a leverage point to increase value for our clients day in and day out, deal in and deal out, versus how maybe it's traditional markets and traditional brokerage would do it.
And so a big thing that we focus on for some of our clients is important is obviously where you think you need to be is important. Everyone wants the best deal inside your budget. That's all important, but more and more labor concerns, labor data, customer or client data, spending information, distance to or away from competitors or complementary businesses. That's a very important component that would either drive the real estate decision to begin with, or would lend itself to a more successful or less successful site selection. And we work with many of our clients to understand maybe they're looking to recruit mid-level CPAs or civil engineers, or maybe there's a primary important role or multiple roles that they are going to be recruiting to their company. And so helping them understand what those standard occupational classifications are, where those employees live in relation to where they want to open up a new location or where they think they want to open up a new location, how much those employees are being paid. So what's a non-competitive and competitive wage for each set of those SOCs, what the employment rate might be in a submarket or a market, or comparing different states. It can be very broad or it can be a very specific local parameter, but what is the employment rate? And then what's the labor pool? What's the depth of that labor? So maybe you have a location and you can put these in heat maps. So it's pretty cool. So like, where are all these people living? What are they earning? If you want to recruit 100 engineers and you can extrapolate, but maybe there's only 30 engineers up for grabs, maybe you don't want to go to that location. Maybe it makes sense for you to spend $5 a foot in a different area of town, or maybe a completely different city that you originally thought of. Helping our clients understand what their labor costs would be and where their employees are living and how they behave is extremely important. So real estate cost is a very expensive line item on your P&L, but HR is typically is a larger cost, and turnover or failure to attract and retain talent is extremely important. So we could go on and on about, but labor is very important component.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying in site selection is we're really trying to get in there with the client and partner with them as a real estate advisor and understand maybe they don't know what they're looking for. Often they do, and they'll say, "This is really what moves the needle for us." And maybe it's the labor, and maybe it's something else that we'll talk about here in a minute. But then we have access to that data, pull it in, and help them make a better decision. The earlier in the process we're involved, the better we can help guide them. And like you said, that could be at a street level in Houston, Texas, or that could be a market approach where we're looking at, hey, we're doing some expansion. We're looking at maybe consolidating locations. We have a location in Dallas. We have one in San Antonio. We have one in Houston. Maybe we're looking at other states. Maybe we're coming internationally into the market. Where should we be? Where should we look? What is that? What are the differences between these different markets? And we can obviously leverage that data and that tech to be able to help make those decisions.
Yeah, correct. And then on the other side of the coin, you have your employees, but you also have your clients and your customers and like their behavior. And this is a more popular focus in retail, but more and more these do have office, industrial, healthcare practices or implications.
Right.
And so same thing, wherever your customers or client might be, where do they live, right? How much do they make? Where are they commuting to? Where are they spending their time? Like the cell phone data that our cell phones track is creepy. How much data that you have on any individual or group of individuals. So that's very important. What's their behavior? You can get really nerded out on mosaic profiles, like the type of density of type of profiles that might complement the customer that you're going after or the client you're going after, and putting those type of people in mosaic profiles, and where's the heat maps and where are these generally people, where they live, where do they like to go. That's incredibly important. And there's thousands and thousands of applications. And as Chase, a lot of times we're meeting with these companies, we got to ask them just like open up their mind, unlimited creativity. If you could learn something about anything you would ever think about or would want to know about, what is it? Like we have over 50,000 data points that we can pull from. So just tell us everything you want to know and we can visualize that on a map and like show them different locations that would lend itself to attracting those type of customers or clients more than if they just, let's be 15 minutes from the decision maker's house, right? And so that part's very interesting.
Yeah, they're very powerful. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also spending habits. So discretionary, we can obviously show general income levels, demographic information. That's great. But what's really cool is looking at the discretionary spending for specific categories as it relates to their clients or their customers. So if you wanted to, when you can also tie that into where your competitors are or not, or where the complementary businesses are or not. So if you wanted to figure out where, like I mentioned before, engineers, well, let's say CPAs, right? So where are the mid-level CPAs? Where do they live? And, and then so you can figure out where they live, where your competitors are. Maybe you can find a location where a lot of the CPAs live, but there's no competitors, but there's a high level of discretionary spending on CPA services. And then you can get really strategic on, let me open up this location where the labor pool is dense, so they don't have to commute a long ways. There's no competitors. And then the people that live in that area, who typically like to hire CPAs that are near them, near where they live, they spend a higher percentage of their discretionary spending on CPA services compared to other areas of town. And being able to map that and show that, and you can do that for healthcare services, childcare expenses, Medicare, Medicaid spending. There's all, like anything you could ever think of from a discretionary standpoint can be shown on a map per submarket, per state, per city, whatever you're looking to go after.
Yeah, exactly. And the usual things that you would want to watch out for or know about any given market, we can look at that as well. So you may have flood risk, which is obviously a popular topic in Houston, as it is in some other metros across the country. We don't have a zoning issue in most areas of Houston, but in other markets, there's obviously zoning considerations. Is this a permitted use where we are? Will we require a variance? Can we get a certificate of occupancy in this particular space? What is that process going through? We had a client in San Antonio that had to go through this. It was a flex property and it was zoned for light industrial, despite the fact that most of the tenants in the space were actually 100% office uses already. And so our client wanted to come in, and our use was a good fit for the makeup of the neighborhood and the use of that property. But they actually had to get on the schedule to be able to go in front of the council to be able to reclassify the entire property to be allowed to have that use in order to move into this space. Those things are important to know going in so you don't spend a bunch of time, get too far down the road, and not be able to make the deal work. And obviously things like infrastructure expansion, roads, where is the city going? Where's the path of progress? What type of expansion is happening?
Right.
All of that's all.
Right. Maybe it makes sense to be in a free trade zone or access to rail. We do a lot of industrial, and just understanding where the path of population is going, where all the housing starts are, for example. A lot of our industrial clients that house all these developers, right? They need to know where the developments are going, where the houses and the master plan communities are being developed. And then they want to be, in that area, or they want to expand out where we're seeing that growth. Very important.
Right. Yeah. And just to tie this all together, we've done this for multiple clients with a multi-location approach to going into a new market. And we
Right.
would basically put all of this together and say, okay, we aren't in that market today. Oxford, tell me, how many locations could we support? Here's our successful locations elsewhere. Here's the profile of what those locations look like. What's the data behind that? Where are the right places in the market where we can put a location, know it's going to be successful? And how many should we have? And how many miles apart should they be in terms of drive time? And all of those things, that's where we take all of these different data points and we really create the profile. And then we replicate that everywhere that the client wants to be. And we have done that, and it's a pretty powerful way to open up a new market and to do it quickly and really take over a market.
Yeah, and we've really seen a shift since we both been in the business. It's gone from, or should be more agency to be doing this, going from, okay, client, where do you want to go? What do you want to spend? And then making it a simple decision and then good luck, to helping them understand that the cost and their thought process or where they need to be, that actually doesn't matter. You need to make these more strategic and informed site selection decisions based off of everything we just discussed. And it really changes the conversation and the value prop that we're providing to them, where the cost of the road's important. We negotiate it obviously, but it really becomes an insignificant data point and all the different data points that we're looking at.
Makes sense.
And yeah, and then another thing we look at is obviously comps. So we're there to negotiate the best deal possible, negotiate the lease document in favor of the tenant. Texas is a non-disclosure state. Other states, it's easier to come across comps, but we do have a deep comps database that we keep that's internal. We do a lot of deals at Oxford, so we record all of those comps, whether they be lease comps or sales comps. We're also active in our community, so we share comps with a lot of landlord rep companies, but some friendly competitors as well. And then we have comps databases like CompStack and Enriched Data that we pull from and trade with. And so we have that comps database available so when we're negotiating the deal, obviously we understand what the fair market transaction deal terms would be, but it helps being able to inform our clients and actually show them what other companies are negotiating just most recently in that building or that area, so they can have the peace of mind that they're, in addition to all this other, the things that we've discussed with added value, that they're actually getting the most bang for their buck and their rent.
That's right. Yeah. Makes sense. And obviously, no discussion about tech would be complete without mention of AI. It's the buzzword of the day and has been and will be. And so it's an ever evolving thing with large language models getting better and the applications for them continuing to grow. And so, again, commercial real estate is no different. So we're always working on expanding our use of large language models. And there's obviously some proprietary component to that because you can really train some of these models with your own data and with your own instruction to really hone what output you're getting. And so we're doing that at Oxford. It's a daily building of that and refining of that in those models. And so we're using it for review of legal documents and just speeding up the process. Sometimes it's helping clients understand a better description of something we're looking at in a lease or a proposal, or being able to propose different variations of how we can negotiate certain deal points. Abstracting leases after the fact, just summarizing things, making it easier for the client to digest and have a reference document for later.
I view it as a second pair of eyes. You have to be careful. It's not doing the job for us, but it's fact checking us and we're all humans. And sometimes at the end of the day, you might miss a little thing. And so we use these large language models to compare the proposals that we have negotiated with the lease document or sales contract. And it can successfully go through it really quick and read and match the box. Yes, you got all these, but it's missing this thing, or this is written a little differently. We can't act as attorneys, but all we do is negotiate these leases and contracts for a living. And so we do our own review, but you can load it up and have the large language models use our information and then some outsource to suggest different areas of the contract to negotiate. And so we do that all the time. And again, we could go off on a tangent about how we use AI internally, but we do have tools to train our agents and retrain our agents on a host of different topics, including lease review, for example, to then they turn around and be able to provide better service to their clients because they get this ongoing training. And we have trainers, we do things on our own, but like AI augments that and helps us do more of that in less time.
100%. And I think the focus on being tech driven as an organization and it being a core value for us is that we're always looking at, this is a fast moving area. There's every 6 months, there's going to be some new tool, some new thing, some new access to some data or something that's going to really help improve that value to clients. And so we're always looking at that. We're always experimenting with those and just trying to find, how do we continue to iterate and improve and drive it forward. So that's what it's about.
Because one, it's fun, and then two, it's of service to our clients and our prospects.
Exactly.
I think that wraps it up for this one. But if you are a business that you think would benefit from anything that we discussed, or frankly, if you're an agent who would like to partner with us or learn more about what we're doing, please let us know. We're here to help.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.